Money FM 89.3. Best of Friday Night Live. Friday Night at the Movies.
Yes, indeed, folks. We are one day away from celebrating Singapore's 60th anniversary. And what is the one thing we like to do in Singapore more than any other?
It's watching movies.
Which is actually true. I don't know if it's still true, but I know about 20 years ago when I was arts editor, there used to be this stat.
Every time you
I
want
pull
to
something
go,
out.
Yeah, you pull something out. It was book writer, now arts director. Neil, you're a man of many talents.
Thank you. But back then, per head of population, Singaporeans went to the cinema more than any other developed any other nation, I believe, on the planet, per head of population,
Okay.
Which you can believe, right? We all went to the cinema.
Okay, I mean, to be fair,
It was air-conditioned. It was relatively cheap.
Right.
You know.
And I think it's also because back then cable wasn't really a thing in all households. So movie theaters were the place where people would hang out and all that and try to catch a film.
I have told this story before, but I arrived in Singapore in November 1996. And I think I told you this before.
Right.
Do you know which Singapore movie at that time was... It was a national phenomenon. It's
Humphreys.
Yeah, correct. And I saw it the second week I was in Singapore. I went with my Singapore Chinese friend, the guy who invited me to Singapore. We saw it in Bishan, Junction 8. And I'll be frank, Naz, then, not now, but then I did not have a clue what everybody was laughing at.
Oh.
Because I didn't understand the Singlish references. I didn't understand the Hokkien. This is a family show, but, you know, the effeminate character had a name, and I didn't understand what that name meant, and like I do now, and all that.
Wait, really?
I'd only been in Singapore for a week, Naz.
Wait, no. As in, like, I didn't know that fact, but okay, I'm going to rewatch the film now.
Yes, but anyone who remembers Army Days, and honestly, they were falling out of their seats laughing. Laughing at Army Days. It was such a cult classic. So that was my first Singapore movie. Can you remember what was the first Singapore movie you ever saw?
My first Singapore movie, it's actually The Ghost Must Be Crazy, where David Bala, the late David Bala, he starred in that film. It was alongside, I can't remember what was his name really, but it was these two, there were multiple stories, of course, as you know, in that film. So David Bala plays a encik for a reservist unit, and then after that, obviously, it's a horror film, it's a horror comedy film, and there's a lot of horror stuff going on, a lot of ghosts, action, and all that happening. But his character is the most iconic because of this quote: "If an enemy aeroplane fly and they see the fire, I die, you die, everybody die." I miss the guy.
That was good.
I miss the guy.
That was good. Right, come on, folks. It's NDP. It's Friday night. Let's have some fun, right?
That's right.
What's your favourite Singapore movie? WhatsApp 88550893. I mean, look, from Liang Po Po to Our Boys to Men, from Crazy Rich Asians to I Not Stupid.
That's right.
Singapore has been a showcase for all genres, formats, races, time periods.
That's right.
Some were great, some were less than great. What are your favourites? WhatsApp 88550893. James straight away has said, my favourite Singapore movie is 12 Stories by Eric Koo.
Oh, I remember that.
Funny you should say that, James. That might be in my list. Right, so it's SG60. So 6 movies, 3 each. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to save my best till last. Do you want to go first?
No, why don't you go first?
All right. Number 3. This is the one time I'm going to be a little bit indulgent.
Okay.
And it ties in with what James has said. Neil, I say you are a legend because you have contributed so much to Singapore, being a journalist, author of Singapore books, media, and most importantly, you have promoted Singapore and you have called it home.
Wow.
That's a beautiful thing, James. Thank you very much, because it makes me even more indulgent because my third movie choice, I was in it.
Wow. You see, this is what I meant earlier. He always pulls new facts out. I got to up my game, man. I got to up my game. Give me a couple more years and I'll be able to reach your level, and I'll pull things out of wherever it comes out from.
Aha, Fuji Ren. Come on, Neil. You're Singapore's best-selling author, yet you didn't appear in any SG movies before. Shame on you. Ha, I did. And I'm about to reveal. My number 3 is Talking Cock, the movie. Now, this was a Singapore movie,
Right.
released in May 2002.
Okay.
Written and directed by my good friend Colin Go.
Okay.
It was based on a website, this is before your time, called Talking Cock website. Really famous in the early days of the internet.
Okay.
And it used to have a Singlish dictionary. They called it the Singlish Coxford Dictionary. The first ever Singlish dictionary.
Right.
It's hard for the Gen Zs, the alphas, to appreciate how popular Talking Cock was back then.
Okay.
Right? So they made a movie about it. And the best comparison I could make, well, this week, The Naked Gun. It was that kind of comedy spoof. It was a comedy spoof, lots of skits. But what's famous about the movie, it wasn't a big box office success, but it was the first Singapore movie, I believe, to have all of the major dialects, Tamil, Malay, many different Chinese dialects, as well as English, and of course Singlish. Most of the film was in Singlish.
Okay.
So now you're thinking Tamil, Malay, Chinese dialects, including Hokkien, Cantonese. Who did I play? Do you want to guess?
If this is going to be some Tropic Thunder situation,
No.
suggest,
I would never do that. No.
I suggest we take it up.
No.
All right.
Of course not.
Okay, then in that case, I think you play a tourist.
In a way, yes, but probably the most famous tourist. A tourist called Sir Stamford Raffles.
I knew it.
And right, there's a fun fact about that. So I'm only in the opening scene of the movie.
Is it because of the height, mate?
Yes. And I was cheap. I was paid in chicken rice.
Okay.
Right? I was the only young more they could get who was free. And we did it for fun. We shot it in one morning at Ritchie Reservoir. But as a joke, as a gag, I walk in with Farquhar. You have to say that carefully. And it's actually pronounced Farquhar, so I have to be careful there. But that's how William Farquhar's name is pronounced.
Farquhar.
Which is Raffles' right-hand man, Sir William Farquhar.
Right.
He was played by David Bottomley. I was Stamford Raffles. And we walk out from the jungle. We emerge out of the jungle. I am holding a box of Kleenex tissues.
Okay.
It's meant to be 1819.
Okay.
And we are wearing Nike trainers. But we're wearing the full colonial costume.
Right.
And the camera even zooms in deliberately on the trainers, that Naked Gun, to make it a joke, right?
Yeah.
Still got comments. Wow, how did they forget to change their shoes? And as if we overlooked it. Wow, you never had Kleenex tissues in 1890. It's a joke.
No, but I think in Singapore back then, if I'm not wrong, Naked Gun did not come to Singapore until the 2000s.
A bit before.
Yeah.
90s, 2000s, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was that kind of airplane spoof.
Exactly.
Kind of
so
movie.
those movies had not hit our little red dot yet. So that's why people may not be, as aware of this genre. But then again, I respect the fact that someone in Singapore tried that angle.
It was quirky. And what I'm proud of is that particular clip, the Raffles clip. It goes viral to this day. If you go on TikTok, if you go on YouTube, it just says, you just Google or YouTube how Raffles found Singapore, how Raffles named Singapore.
Okay.
And the clip is always popping up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. It's on YouTube, the clip. And you know what's annoying? I've heard it's been viewed millions of times on TikTok.
Right.
How much money have I made? Not a single cent. But I'm not bitter. Talking Cock the movie, that was my number 3. What's yours?
Oh my God, I just saw it here. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go back to
Yes, you
mine.
can Google later. Just Google how Raffles founded Singapore. It's on YouTube.
My third movie is, this is a Chinese movie actually.
Yeah.
It's very touching, very heartwarming. There's a lot of angst in it. But then again, as more versions or more sequels start pouring in, right, the follow-up movies, it gets a little bit weird. But that's probably because it's moving on with the times. And this is obviously I'm Not Stupid.
Yeah, I love I'm Not Stupid.
Because the first two were classics.
Yeah.
They were perfect in terms of portraying how families, or in this case, I think Chinese families would behave right in different SES situations.
I cried my eyes out watching I'm Not Stupid.
But I have a few issues with those movies. The reason is because it's very unrealistic at times.
Yeah. A lot of Singapore movies are.
And the thing is, right, they over-exaggerate how school life actually works.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the fact that there's most of the time in these movies, I don't know if you realize, the teachers are non-existent except for the third one, but that's probably
Yeah.
because Glenn Yong was the teacher there.
Yeah.
But the first two had no teacher, only two of them. One of them is the principal.
Yeah.
And obviously Jack Neo has to be in the film, right? So he plays the father of this rich kids. And it was really interesting because it showed you the different life lessons. And I think that's what Singapore movies is all about, life lessons. Because as they say, if you're not rich in money or wealth, you're always rich in values.
I agree. Terrific. Well done. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm Not Stupid. Jack Newell, terrific movie. Ian has just joined us. He says favourite movies are Army Days and Me Pok Man.
Oh.
Me Pok Man is a very good film, and that ties in very nicely with my second choice, number 2, same director. Eric Koo made both Me Pok Man and 12 Stories, which is my second movie.
I've heard of that, and I think I watched it many years ago. But can you remind me what the story is about?
Perfect for me because it came out in 97.
Okay.
And I arrived in late 96. And I was living then in Toa Payoh HDB, a very old 3-room flat in Toa Payoh. And that's what 12 Stories is. It's an ensemble cast.
Okay.
Great cast. Jack Newell's in it again. Ko Boon Pin, who I knew a little bit because I worked for his sister. Singapore's a small world. And it was a day in the life of an HDB block.
Right.
I think it was 3 stories, if I'm not wrong, following 3 different apartments, basically, in the same day. And it would cut back and forth. So it was just a simple day in the life of 3 different HDB households. So there was there was a soup vendor in one, I remember, and he had a mainland Chinese wife.
Ooh.
And then there was a depressed young man in there. And I just remember Ko Boon Ping's performance was absolutely electrifying. It was brutal. It was gritty. It was funny. It was sad, which is what life is, right? I mean, it was just an honest slice of life in a typical HDB block in the 1990s. And I think this movie is now on Netflix.
Ooh.
Netflix or Disney, but don't quote me.
I'm going to check it out.
It's definitely on one of them.
Yeah.
12 Stories it's a kind of movie they don't make anymore. You know, that slice of honest, gritty, poignant, funny
that's a good
slice of
point.
life.
That
they
is a
don't
very
make
good
those
point.
movies anymore.
Because I think Singaporeans, as we move towards, the modern times, right? I think a lot of the movies these days, they don't really show there's no focus in how we built ourselves as a country. And you can see that in all the messaging in the 90s films, because all the kampong spirit, I follow your accent.
Kampong.
Kampong spirit, and it's all about unity back then. But these days, a lot of the films are about comedy.
Yeah.
It's about...
Because they make money. And this film was a critical success, but it wasn't a commercial success. It also starred, according to James, Lam Mei Yi. I remember that actress very, very well. All right, your number 2.
My number 2 is also about someone that has always played a joke character. And this film is where he tried his hand at a very serious role. And it's called Taxi Taxi, featuring Gurmit Singh and Mark Lee. Yeah. So
Mark Lee's good when he plays serious. He did the film, I think it was Geylang, last year or the year before. Very good.
But have you watched Taxi Taxi before?
I've seen clips, but it was a long time ago.
So Taxi Taxi is about the retrenched microbiology scientist, and obviously it's played by Gurmit Singh. And because he couldn't find any jobs, he turned to taxi driving. And back then, a lot of people associated taxi drivers with negative connotations, such as coming from a poor background, or even, in terms of wealth, poor wealth. So I found this movie to be a very good representation about how sometimes stereotypes may not be true. Because as you can tell, this man is a very smart person in the film, but the reason why he went and became a taxi driver is because of desperation, and also because there's no other option. But that does not mean he is, he's poor and all that. In fact, that makes him all the more great, because he went through all of that trouble, and he still, he showed that he's still a respectable man at the end of the day. So I think, like you said, your movies were all about the slice of life in Singapore. The movies that I've chosen for my number 2 is about how the common man works hard in Singapore, and how everybody should strive to be the best Singaporean they are.
Fantastic. Right, and my number 1 movie is a movie that was banned in Singapore for many years. It's not anymore, but it's very hard to find. I got it on DVD a long time ago.
Okay.
And it's called Saint Jack. Have you heard of this film?
No, wow.
Saint Jack
What's it about?
was based on a novel, a very famous 1973 novel called Saint Jack, written by a famous travel writer called Paul Theroux, who was a British guy. Do you know the documentary maker Louis Theroux?
Very familiar.
It's
but
his father.
Oh.
And he used to lecture at NUS in the
Okay.
60s and 70s, I
Wow,
believe.
interesting.
Wrote this novel, and then it became a 1979 movie. I know this is a family show, so all I will say is the guy playing Jack is an American actor, and he looks after women. Shall we leave it at that?
Right.
And they provide a service. And it's set during the Vietnam War. So it's very contentious and it's very controversial. And without going into the plot, what I will say is it was the first ever entire Hollywood movie entirely shot in Singapore. And still is, I think, to this day.
Wow.
I mean, entirely. From the first minute to the last. Every single shot is in Singapore. So even if you don't like the plot and you don't like the characters...
Right.
Just to see Singapore in 1979, there's this great scene near the end of the movie where he comes out of the Fullerton, which at that time was the post office.
Right.
And it had the famous long post office bar counter. He steps out of what is now the Fullerton Hotel. And that was the end of Singapore, right? And then he looks out to what is now Marina Bay, but back then it was the open sea.
Right.
And it's just sampans everywhere. And it is just this beautiful time capsule. And I recommend any Singaporean, if they get a chance to see Saint Jack, it's the only movie we have that shows you entirely how Singapore used to be.
In the 70s lah.
Absolute masterpiece.
Wow.
That's my number one. Over to you.
My number one is, of course, Army Days. It's a quintessential movie for every Singaporean boy that is waiting to be a man. Because, my friends, as much as Our Boys to Men is the modern depiction of national service, Army Days has its own charm that cannot be beaten.
Absolute classic. Good choice, my friend.
And also, Sheikh Haikal, that PT scene where they did the 5BX. Where he tore his pants because of doing too many jumping jacks. That is the funniest bit to me. Until today, that always cracks me up.
And that's the best way to end Friday night at the movies. This weekend, try to watch a Singapore classic.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.